Three. Welcome to Assembling Titans. This is Charles Barnes, your host. We have Charlie Gross here on the show today. He covers the Bills and he has great insight on that team. Obviously, we play them on a very unorthodox Tuesday night, right? It's Tuesday night. And he's the founder of Draft Value Score, Trust the Process Analytics, does Downtown Bills. He's a contributor for the NFL Draft Lounge. So Charlie Gross, just tell the people how they can get in contact with you, and tell them a little bit more about your endeavors.
Well, thanks for having me, first of all. And, if this goes well, I might petition the NFL to change Thursday night football to Tuesday night football. That Thursday nights are just weird to me anyway. But yeah, so I'm the host of Downtown Bills. So you can find that account at Downtown Bills. You can find me on Twitter at Charlie_Gross_. And I do some writing for the Downtown Sports Network. And I also did start my own analytics company. We're still working out some kinks and building a website. But basically, Draft Value Score is just a way to really determine how good an organization is. I can give you the value of any draft pick ever eventually once I get all the data pushed in and compare GM. See, is Howie Roseman really that good? Where's Brandon Beane fit? Tom Telesco, and really go back and do the history. And so that's kind of why I started it. But yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to this football game. I'm glad, hopefully, it's going to be played. Didn't want to have to put it back to week 18 or something like that. So hopefully we're all good.
Right. And that's very interesting. You created your own metric. I'm very interested in diving into that once you get it going, and then what you already have now. That's certainly something to look for, because I don't think we have that. Because I think if people know me and follow me, they know I'm really big on accountability, especially in the draft process. So that's an excellent thing you're doing there. So speaking of Brandon Beane, I was looking at this offensive roster, and I really, really love how he's forming it. A lot of play style variants. I might just coin that play style variants from, the running backs. They got short guys that's shifty. They got big guys that are physical. Wide receivers, they have the shifty route runners, small speedsters, and then they have, guys with size, I guess you could say, with Gabriel Davis. And, Stephon Diggs isn't, huge, but he's a taller receiver than Cole Beasley, obviously. Dawson Knox, and then Tyler Kroft, Lee Smith. So we're going to start off with the quarterback position. And Josh Allen is a guy that during the draft process, I was not huge on him. I'm going to be honest. I think I tabbed him as like a athletic Phillip Rivers, but without the accuracy when he first came out. Now, after watching tape, I'm a believer. He's an athletic Phillip Rivers with the accuracy now. So that's very impressive. So just tell us a little bit about what he's been able to do. If you got any backstories on how he improved the accuracy, or just your overall opinion on him. He's averaging 9 yards per completion, only been sacked 9 times, over 70% completion percentage. He's number 5 overall in PFF for quarterbacks. So, he's out there doing it. So, Charlie, let us know about Josh Allen and his progression this year.
Yeah, I got to be honest. When he first came out, and I've said this on my own podcast probably 30 times, so I'll tell your listeners, I tweeted out a minute after the pick, Josh Allen equals bust, Josh Rosen equals Super Bowl. And I'm not trying to slander Josh Rosen. I like Josh Rosen. My wife's a big Josh Rosen fan, but you can see how mad I was about it at the time. And I had heard the same things about Josh and accuracy. And I watched a couple of games at Wyoming, and I don't think there's anyone who could have really predicted that Josh would sort of end up where he is now. And that's a credit to the Bills organization and to Brandon Beane. And I kind of compared him to Cam Newton because they had a similar guy in Cam, in my opinion, in Carolina. So they were comfortable with that. But right, I mean, going back to his backstory, this is a guy who wasn't recruited out of high school. He wrote 1,000 letters and sent them out to colleges, and nobody responded. He went to junior college for a year. Then he ended up finally, Wyoming was interested. He played 2 years at Wyoming, and he wasn't great, but you can see almost as an advantage to him. Joe Marino from Locked On Bills always says that a scout told Joe that the reason they didn't have Allen above Darnold was because they thought Allen was 10,000 reps behind Sam Darnold coming out of college. So in a way that's bad, but in a way he's like an unmolded ball of clay. And yeah, he made great athletic plays with his legs in his first year, and I'm sitting on my TV screaming, "Please stop throwing in a triple coverage while rolling to your right." You know, game after game, and to Josh's credit, anything that he wasn't good at, he worked on. He went with Jordan Palmer in the summer. He worked on it. Last year, people said, "Oh, you stink at the deep ball." He comes out this year, and I think he's top 3 in throws over 20 yards, and they're beautiful. He looks like, who would name a guy, Elway, Favre, and I'm not saying his career is going to go that way, but that's who he looks like. He looks like Mahomes or somebody. So yeah, I mean, it's a credit to him. It was improbable, and a credit to Jordan Palmer and Brian Dable. And going back to your point real quick about Brandon Beane, I think that the Bills front office put on a clinic. If your team has a young quarterback, Tua or Trevor Lawrence or Trey Lance, or on how to build around a young quarterback. They've isolated the variable. He's the variable. They've isolated him. They've put veterans on the offensive line. They've got veteran wide receivers, veteran tight ends. They've got a great defense. So now they can't say, like what the Jets can say, well, no one built around Sam Darnold. You can't say that. So they've given Josh every opportunity to succeed, and he's succeeding. And I think this team construction is just brilliant. It's brilliant because they've got all these contracts now that are going to fall off in the next 2 or 3 years. And they've got a young core guys, Allen, Edmonds, White, Milano. You mentioned the running backs, Zach Moss, Devin Singletary. Diggs is 4 years, $10 million a year. You've got John Brown. You got a young Gabe Davis, Dawson Knox at tight end, Deion Dawkins. So these guys will eventually rise up, get second contracts. And as these other veteran contracts roll off, they become the core, and you just fill in young guys around these guys. So it's really just a really brilliant, I think, way to build around a young quarterback.
You're absolutely right. Absolutely right. I mean, he couldn't have done any better. He has so much speed and so much, like I said, play style variance that you can win in multiple ways, man. You guys can win with the speed NASCAR game. You guys can pound it out. So that's going to be dangerous for the Titans come Tuesday. And obviously the matchup between the quarterbacks, he and Ryan Tannehill, we've had some time off due to complications here. But I think it'll be a good duel. I mean, they're similar in terms of they offer athleticism. I wouldn't say Tannehill is as athletic as Allen, but athleticism, pinpoint accuracy now. I think that'll be a great matchup between those two. So moving on to the running backs, Devin Singletary, who I have in my notes, Shady McCoy type moves. I know you see it within Devin Singletary, very impressive runner. Zach Moss can catch. He's a tough, sustaining type of running back. And then TJ Yeldon, who he's averaging five yards a carry. I know he doesn't get the ball as much, but he's a guy that we're very familiar with here in Titans country due to his time with the Jaguars. Big back, take Tawan Jones. Both of those guys are over 6 foot. So just tell us a little bit about how the running backs have been doing this year and how that play style variance affects how the flow of the game goes for you guys.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Everyone is so, into speed. And I think that's kind of the one thing that the Bills don't really have in the backfield. They don't have a lot of speed, and that's relative. They're all faster than me. But I think Devin Singletary, ran like a 4.740. Zach Moss isn't much better. So these guys aren't going to stretch the outside and like they're not the Reggie Bushes of the world. But I think when you watch Devin Singletary on film, they talk a lot about him being able to make you miss in a phone booth. Like he's not going to run away from you, but he's going to make you look silly within that 2 or 3 yard space around him. And I think that's what makes him valuable. And then you got Zach Moss, and I'm just looking at the injury report now, and it looks like he practiced, but he was limited. He's been hurt with a toe, but he's a guy who, coming out, basically said, I want to make defenders pay, pay a physical price to tackle me. And I'm sure that sounds familiar to you guys with Derrick Henry. Zach Moss is like, hey, man, come tackle me if you dare. And I think Zach Moss has been a little better in the passing game than we thought he was going to be. I think he's a little bit better blitz pickup wise than Devin Singletary is. And Tywan Jones is seemingly strictly just a special teams guy, special teams veteran. And TJ Yeldon's that guy who is the veteran in the room. That's the other thing that Brandon Beane did is he wanted to have a veteran in every room. They didn't have to be a Pro Bowl caliber veteran. He just wanted to have a veteran in every room. And TJ Yeldon's that guy. And he has kind of that weird sort of upright running style, but he's good out of the backfield. And he played last week and he got his 4 or 5, carries, a couple pass receptions. And that's what he's going to give him if they need him to, so there are, I guess, a few differences, right? Like Singletary, like I said, he's the guy who's going to make you miss in short space. Zach Moss doesn't want you to miss, and Yeldon's kind of that receiver guy. So it is an interesting mix. The one weakness I would say is that there isn't a ton of just top end breakaway speed at that position.
Yeah. I can see that. And and we always have in the scouting community the difference between what is quick, what is agile, what is fast. So definitely, so there is that balance that you guys are able to create, and that's something that here in Tennessee we're trying to have with Derrick Henry and Darrington Evans, which Evans hasn't been able to play so much, but he'll be healthy for this game. And there's not much to say about Derrick Henry. Other than one disclaimer about him, a lot of people look at his size and believe that he's more of a pounder. Maybe he'll run you over, but surprisingly, he's more finesse than you think. His stiff arm is what really allows him to break tackles and get extra yards, and that's something that I watched on tape with Derrick Henry. Is he's always falling forward. So Darrington Evans, hopefully we can get him involved and get his speed involved in this running game. But yeah, you guys are awesome at the running back position. I love the players that you guys have. So let's move on to wide receiver. Stefon Diggs, Cole Beasley are both in the top 20 in the PFF rankings. Isaiah McKenzie, I watch him on tape and I see you guys getting him involved a lot, using that speed. John Brown, Gabriel Davis, just give us a brief synopsis on how these guys are being used and who's impressed you thus far.
Yeah, I think when Josh first got into the league, going back to the Cam Newton point, they brought in big, tall, slow guys. They traded for Kelvin Benjamin because they were comfortable with him and the Carolina pipeline that seems to be never ending up here to Buffalo. And they quickly realized that a guy like Josh needs guys who can separate. He doesn't need tall guys. He needs guys who can get clear of anyone else. And in my mind, I think the Bills have 3 of the top 10 separators in the league. I mean, Stefon Diggs is probably the best route runner in the league. You got Cole Beasley, a top 5 slot. And John Brown is he's not just a John Ross speed guy. I mean, Stefon Diggs considers him a legit number 1 receiver. So when you trade for a guy like Diggs, it knocks everybody else down the depth chart, which means, John Brown isn't going up against Gilmore. He's going up against, McCord, whoever, and that knocks, everybody down. And then you get a great 4th receiver in Gabe Davis. And yeah, he only has 8 catches, but his trainer, I've talked to his trainer, the media was raving about him in training camp. And, the media doesn't really do that. Like, their job is to write stories. It's not to promote. So just have them say that. And the Bills run a lot of 10 personnel because they can. They consider 4 top 2 or 3 wide receivers, and they run 10 personnel like 50% of the time or something crazy like that. And Stefon Diggs has done so much for Josh. I'm sure you guys have seen a couple of those throws and where you're kind of like, oh my God, and Stefon Diggs is right there. I'm like, thank God. And yeah, Isaiah McKenzie, he's like the answer to the slowness at running back. You know, they put McKenzie in to stretch the edge. And I was watching the Chiefs game the other day, and I saw the exact same formation that the Bills run, that the Chiefs run. You know, it was, I think, 3 wide, Kelsey tight end, running back, and they've got Hardman doing that jet sweep. And I was like, that's the exact same play. And that's the Bills. Bills run a ton of jet sweep, and sometimes they give it to them, and sometimes it's a fake. But they do a lot of that kind of jet sweep stuff with McKenzie, and that's really, you know, his role.
Yeah, I saw that, and he's been a guy that he always scares me because those gadget plays randomly can really gash in. As the previous 2 times we've played under the Sean McDermott regime, it's been close games, and it's always that one play where the Bills always gets us, and a guy like him is always involved. So that's very impressive here in Titans country. I mean, AJ Brown, Khalif Raymond. We're going to be shorthanded in this game due to circumstances, but it's very unfortunate for a guy like Corey Davis who finally catching on a little bit and having a really good season. So you guys definitely have the advantage there in this game, and it's going to be something our defensive backs, and even hopefully we don't have a linebacker on you guys, but defensive back field will definitely have our hands full. But moving on to tight end, Dawson Knox, Tyler Croft, Lee Smith. I see he didn't he catch a touchdown pass?
Yeah, his first touchdown catch, his only catch of the season, his
right.
first game active.
Yeah, I saw his snaps, and it was like he had one snap. It was one touchdown.
Yeah.
So I was pretty lucky for him. But yeah, just tell us how those guys are used. I know Dawson Knox is more of a move guy or more athletically gifted. But he has. I remember studying him on tape. He's a very physical guy. And then Tyler Croft. They're like I wouldn't say they're the same, but they tell us what's the difference. Explain to me what's the difference between all of these guys and what they provide.
Yeah, I think Lee Smith is, again, the veteran in the room, good blocking tight end. They've got a 4th guy, I believe he's on the practice squad, named Tommy Sweeney, who was a 7th round pick out of Boston College, who they like as a developmental guy. And I think Croft is sort of the steady, you can play him every down veteran that they brought over from Cincinnati, and Dawson Knox is kind of hopefully, the next George Kittle or, Kelsey. And he's another guy going back to the 10,000 reps behind. He was a college quarterback. He transferred to tight end and in college. And I'm sure he's in that offense where they seem to only throw the ball to AJ Brown. Even though they've got DK Metcalf and Dawson Knox, and Dawson Knox gets like 4 catches a year. And so I think he's 5,000 reps behind as well. But he's a physical guy. He's 6'5", 250, but he runs well. And I think he's another guy, if you give him a couple years to develop, he's going to be one of the top tight ends in the league. He's had a few ball security issues. But like I said, you can probably attribute that to how many reps is that guy getting in college and practice. They never threw him the ball. So the Bills drafted him in the 3rd round based on talent, and he's their starting tight end. And the first 2 years with Josh, they did a lot of fullback kind of, motion so that he would know whether it was zone or man. Well, this year the fullback's gone, and that role has been given to the tight ends. So you're going to see a lot of H-back stuff. Dawson Knox is going to line up in the backfield and, then go out, or they'll line up a running back wide and then bring him back in. And that's all done to help Josh, figure out if it's zone or man. But yeah, I think that if Dawson Knox continues, he'll be one of those 5 or 6 or 7 young, athletic, Pro Bowl type tight ends. And he went down, and, Tyler Croft stepped in and caught 2 touchdown passes last week. So, I think there's a drop off athletically, but, I think experience wise, Croft is obviously more polished because he's the veteran.
Okay. Yeah, I just found it to be a unique group. I knew they weren't all, every player has something to offer. So I was just wondering, well, for us, we're gonna have to rely heavily on Jonnu Smith.
Yeah, you got a good one there, man.
Yeah, oh yeah. And isn't Matt Milano? He didn't practice all week, right?
He got a torn pec.
Torn pec.
Yeah,
Wow.
which him and Edmonds were both out sort of 2 weeks ago, and they came back last week. And yeah, Milano's out is my best guess because he hasn't practiced in 3 days. Yeah, he's got a torn pec, so that's going to be a bit of a problem.
Yeah, that's going to be a huge problem. I mean, every time we play you guys, he's always a nuisance. And I would just watching tape, I really enjoy his game. He kind of reminds me of a throwback player, kind of like a Mike Vrabel, a guy that isn't necessarily athletically gifted, but he makes do. He's very good in coverage. And that was a matchup that I think, depending on who covers him, whether it be Poyer or High, I'm talking about John
Yeah,
Cena.
what they'll probably do is they'll probably put Marlowe on him and like Saron Neal or something.
Right.
That they
Okay.
like to do that, so that's probably what they'll do.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, we're gonna have to rely on him and maybe Ferkser, but just keeping this thing going. Offensive line: Daryl Williams, Deion Dawkins, Cody Ford, Quinn Spain. Let us know who's injured, who's ready to go. Brian Winters, Mitch Morse. Um, Daryl Williams is having a top 10 tackle type of year according to PFF. Just let us know how those guys really are doing. And tell us, is Josh Allen's escaping? Is he escaping early on his own merit, or is it because these guys aren't doing such a good job?
Yeah, I'd say, well, looking at the injury report first, Brian Winters hasn't practiced in 2 days, so I'm not sure if he's even going to play. Cody Ford seems to be okay, and Quentin Spain has been benched. So I'm not really sure what that was about because they re-signed him because they wanted the continuity next to Deion Dawkins. But now it seems like, and Sean McDermott, I don't know if he just came out and said it, but he alluded to the fact that they want Cody Ford maybe as the long-term player at left guard. And John Feliciano, I don't know if he's going to come back. I know he is off IR. I don't know if he's going to play, but if he is back, he'd be the right guard. And then yeah, Daryl Williams is having a good year. Another guy who they know from Carolina, who they brought in, the pipeline. And yeah, there was I think one or two plays where his opposite ran by him last week, but aside from that, it's been good. And I think when they first brought these guys in, Mitch Morris and Feliciano, I considered it like maybe a top, a 20-ish offensive line, like not a top offensive line, but good enough for Josh to. And I think they've improved a bit. I think they're probably more like a top 15 line. And I'll tell you, Josh is just standing back there. I mean, I don't think he ran one time last week. He moves around in the pocket a little bit, and there's certainly times where, they give him a lot of time. You watch the tape and you're just like, I can't believe how much time. Like, I'm like, throw the ball, Josh. And obviously that works to his disadvantage because every now and then he runs backwards and takes a 25-yard sack. But I think they've done a really good job, and Josh will run into pressure at times, but I think they've done a good job, and he's had to run not at all. And I think that speaks to them and his maturity in the pocket, being comfortable in the pocket and trusting what he sees. So I think they're a top, I don't know, 12 line. And yeah, Daryl Williams probably has been the best, I would say, offensive lineman so far for them.
That's definitely great insight there because you do see him, sitting back there bouncing, with his very upright waiting motion, and he does have a lot of time. And I remember just playing in his younger days. That would be something that would be definitely infuriating because he would just be around there, and he'd run into pressure, and then 3 plays later he'd make this miraculous play, and then 3 plays later he'd do something boneheaded. So it's good to see a little bit of consistency on the positive side. So we're gonna move to defense. Looking at the overall stats, pretty solid. 10 sacks, 2 picks. Those are the things that I look at. 2 by Mario Addison, and then 2 picks from Milano, and then a guy that's out as well, Levi Wallace. So your 2 picks come from guys that's not even, going to be playing Tuesday. So we're going to start with the defensive line. Tell us a little bit about how Vernon Butler, Quentin Jefferson, and Ed Oliver are playing.
I think it's a work in progress still. I know that I'm sure Taylor Lewan is happy that Jordan Phillips and Shaq Lawson aren't here anymore. But we thought it would be an improvement, and so far, I'm not sure it has been. The Bills continue to struggle with run defense. That was their biggest issue last season, and I don't know if it was the lack of offseason activities or no preseason games, but again, they bring in Vernon Butler and Mario Addison, who they're very familiar with. And I think Starr opted out. And I think that was a bigger thing than we realized it would be in terms of the run defense. And I think they're still trying to kind of figure out, who do we play with who? Like, are we going to put Jefferson and Oliver out there? Is it Butler and Oliver? Is it, Oliver and Harrison Phillips? Like, when we bring in these guys, who are they playing with? And so I think they're trying to figure that out still. And I think Mario Addison has probably been their best defensive lineman. Jerry Hughes certainly is getting pressure, but he's not been able to finish. Trent Murphy started off kind of hot, and now he's kind of gone back to being underwhelming. So I think the potential's there for a really, really outstanding defensive line, but I still think they're just trying to work through chemistry and gelling and the coaches figuring out who plays best with who in what situation.
Funny you mentioned the line, who I didn't really touch on that much because obviously last year you guys got after it. You guys had like what, 5 sacks versus
yeah. Taylor didn't have a good day.
Poor Marcus Mariota, man. He had it tough. It was tough for him. But yeah, Jordan Phillips, one of my favorite defensive linemen in the league. I definitely wanted the Titans kind of. I know he's kind of all over the place. He's not necessarily disciplined, but man, that was a good game. Just as a fan, because I watched him come out of Oklahoma.
Yeah, he was real popular with the Bills fans. I think the issue is when, if you really watch the film, is he was just getting blown off the ball, in the run game, and like the ball snapped and he's like sitting in Tremaine Edmunds' lap, and Edmunds is like, well, how am I going to tackle anybody if you're, and that was kind of, I think, why they let him go.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Moving forward, speaking of Tremaine Edmunds, speaking with Nick Farabaugh, last week for the Steelers game that never happened, moved to week 7, by the way. His brother, Trey Edmunds, who is not playing that well, especially in coverage. How is Tremaine Edmunds playing, and how is that linebacking group in general playing?
Well, Matt Milano is the best linebacker on the team. And unfortunately, it doesn't look like he's going to be playing. So Tyrell Dodson has played well in terms of play diagnosis and supporting the run, but he's not that great yet in coverage. I think against, I don't know if it was Miami or the other game, he ended up letting up about 9 catches for 100 yards. So not ideal there. And Tremaine Edmunds is hurt. I don't see him here on the injury report, but he's hurt. I don't know exactly what goes into that, because at the end of the year last year, Ed Oliver and John Feliciano, we find out, had like torn shoulder muscles, and they were never on the injury report. But there's no way he's 100%. He's looked hesitant, taking some bad angles, kind of afraid to use his one shoulder to tackle some of the time. And we got to remember, when he came out, I think he was only 20 when he was drafted. So he's only 22 now. So he's still young. He's still learning. And I think the big thing for him in terms of the defense is he's 6'6", 250. I mean, his wingspan alone does change, a quarterback's trajectory and where they can throw down the seam and things like that. And the Bills are hoping he becomes their Luke Kuechly, but I can't tell you that he has – I'm not sure he's regressed this year, but he certainly hasn't taken any steps forward as of right now. And part of it's the injury, and part of it is he needs to, his eyes need to process better.
Correction, brother's name is Terrell Edmonds.
Oh, right, right. Yeah, yeah,
Tremaine, yeah,
yeah,
Tremaine Edmonds and Terrell. So yeah.
yeah.
But yeah, that's what I've noticed as well. I mean, watching tape of him coming out, both of those players reminded me. You could, I don't know if it was brother telekinesis, but they both had a ways to go in terms of like learning the details of their position. Like it's, athletically, they're there. You know, they can run with it. You most they're long, they're lengthy, they got size. It's just about the the intricacies of the game of football and at that position. And for the Titans, just double back, giving you a little bit of something. Um, defensive line, Jeffrey Simmons probably won't play this game. Well, it's almost foregone
Oh, thank God.
conclusion. Yeah, he's not playing. Daquan Jones has a chance, based off of protocol. He's just right on the days after testing. He should be able to go. So at least we got Daquan back. Linebacking core, Rashawn Evans, Jayon Brown. At least we got our starters. Those guys are a great tandem right now. Jayon could do a little bit better assignment wise and reading in the run game. But other than that, run defense has been our problem as well. And it's been a lot about block shedding, about scheme just catching us at the wrong time. So that's what scares me about this game. Us coming off of a bye and break, not having much contact functions right now. It you know it it's going to be tough. And I know Titans fans are going to watch this, so I'm not trying to be too critical. That's why I'm not giving my prediction of the score until later on. Um, but we're going to move on to the cornerbacks. Levi Wallace is out. He's a guy that I always look at to pick on in these games versus you guys, but it never happens because he holds it down. He holds it down every time he plays us. But he's going to be out. Trey White. If I was Titans general manager, you guys would not have Trey White. So lucky you guys. Josh Norman. He's new addition to the squad, but I saw he played very well last week. Teron Johnson as well. He's been in and out, playing well. So just tell us a little bit about these guys and how they help this defense.
Yeah, I mean Trey White is another guy I'm looking here. He hasn't practiced in 3 days. He's got a back injury, so that's a little that's not ideal. But when he's healthy, I think he's probably he's a top three cornerback in the NFL. Yeah, and a few people here are still mad that we didn't draft Mahomes and we traded back and all that stuff and whatever. um, yeah, when Trey's healthy, he's one of the best three corners in the league. I don't want to say he struggled a little bit this year, but not quite as good as last year, and maybe that's because of the front seven is having their issues. Yeah, and you got Josh Norman, who we were all a little worried about because, how old is he? And yes, he's had success in this defense in Carolina. Again, Carolina, but that was 5 years ago, right? I mean, you're not sure what he has left, what little athleticism he had. What does he have left? Came off the bench last week, gave the team a spark. You could tell he was raring to go. And they kind of said, they were talking on the sideline, hey man, someone's got to do something. And he said, well, I took it upon myself to go do something. And hey, that's great. Yeah, Levi Wallace was a walk-on in Alabama. He's undrafted, and we describe him a lot as too skinny and maybe too weak, but he keeps playing good enough where they can't necessarily replace him. So it just is what it is. I give props to him for working hard and this guy earned a spot in the NFL. There's no doubt about it. And he's not going to break on the ball a lot, and he's not quick. Like, he's never going to chase Tyreek Hill down or anything like that, but he's steady, and he's maybe he's Josh Norman light, but he's good enough to play opposite from Trey White. So, and then, I think Cam Lewis will probably play today. He's a guy who has actually played at the University of Buffalo, and he's been on the practice squad, and he'll probably play. Hopefully Trey plays, but who knows, man. This wild and wacky this week.
For sure, for sure. I mean, Trey's good enough to not practice and play, but as you said, he's been up and down. He got lucky on a few plays. He got burnt, and I think he had a guy drop the ball or something like that.
Yeah, that motion that the Rams really, they
Yeah,
really couldn't handle all the stuff they were doing. That was a real problem for them.
right. And moving on to well, I'll talk about the Titans corners. Malcolm Butler, Dory Jackson. They've been talking about him coming back from a knee injury, and I don't know what Obviously, we hadn't practiced, so it's very tough for me to give you guys anything. But he's coming off of a knee injury. He may or may not play. Christian Fulton is on the borderline with that protocol thing. Overall, these guys have been very inconsistent this year. Malcolm Butler, Jonathan Joseph is showing his age, getting scorched. If you saw Justin Jefferson just burn him all game, and that's another matchup that you see with you guys wide receivers and our corners that you just don't see playing out very well. It just doesn't look it. But moving on to safeties, you've already mentioned Neal and Marlowe, two guys that every time we play you guys, they make some type of random play. Like Marlowe was another guy when we played in Buffalo and we lost by like a point or something. He made this, I think he had an interception in Buffalo a couple years ago. I'm like, there's nobody we can pick on. These guys make plays. So Micah Hyde, Jordan Poyer, who's my guy, Oregon State. I remember watching him. He was a corner at first. Love his instincts, love his fights. His number 2 PFF graded safety in the league, leads the team in tackles. He's done an excellent job. Tell us about how these safeties have been playing.
Yeah, and that's another thing where we weren't really sure when they signed them what we were getting, and now we feel they're disrespected because we feel that they're probably a top 5 safety tandem in the league. And, last year when the Bills lost to the Patriots and Allen got knocked out of the game at the end, after the game, Brady said, "Man, I don't know what's going on back there because Hyde and Poyer are so good at masking their coverages and not really showing you what the coverage is until after the ball is snapped, and he was confused and didn't know what to do." And I think that's their biggest asset. Is that's what really drives this defense, is their ability to hold and disguise coverages for that long. And yeah, Jordan Poyer, contract extension, guys playing out of his mind. He'll come up on the line and cover running backs and tight ends. He'll drop back into coverage. Obviously, he's really kind of the jack of all trades safety for the Bills, and just having an outstanding year. Micah Hyde is the guy who you'll never see unless you watch the All 22, because he's like that far back a lot of the time, but he's really responsible for the coverage disguises. And yeah, Dean Marlowe's the guy who we joke about, who's been with McDermott for so long that they cut him all the time, and then he's sitting on his couch eating popcorn, and they say, "Dean, we need you," and he just drive to the facility, and they sign him that day. There's been a lot of talk about the big nickel, or the Buffalo nickel, they call it here, and whether that's Saran Neal. The Bills were really hot after Kyle Duggar, apparently, and maybe this year they'll target, Hamza and Nasruddin. We'll see. But I think that's a position that they really value, having that sort of safety corner big. And for slot corners, Teron Johnson has struggled in coverage this year. He's a better run defender, but they'll rotate him. They rotate in Marlowe, Saran Neal. It just kind of depends who's on the field for the other team at that time and what's going on in terms of that.
Yeah, I mean, I love what that defense does. I mean, you guys bend but don't break. Very similar to what the Titans have been doing. I would say more so last year than this year. This year we've been a bit porous, but we have a good safety tandem ourselves with Kevin Byard and Kenny Vaccaro. And one of the things with those guys, we just been missing tackles on the back end, and that's why our run defense has been bad. But as far as coverage, I think we got 2 smart guys back there that's doing a great job. Then you got Amani Hooker, who's very cerebral, making plays. He's a ball hawk. Not his stature, he's a bit stubby. He isn't long. He isn't gonna jump with anybody. But I think he can play in the box, and he's very cerebral, so that's gonna work. I forgot to mention with Josh Norman and Taylor Lewan, they got some history. So that's something that
Yeah. Yeah, it's like another revenge tour. game. There's all these stuff going on lately. Yeah, that'll be interesting. I wonder.
You know he's gonna say something. You know it's gonna be something.
Probably. I mean, Norman seems like he's that guy.
For sure. He hasn't forgot about Lawan doing that when he was in Washington. That's gonna be something that you guys gotta watch out for. It's gonna be interesting. But moving on to the special teams, Steven Gostkowski just won AFC Player of the Month after just having a horrible first game and a half. Really, I kind of saw it coming, and it's a different narrative if we lose that game in Denver, because it would have been because of the lost 9 points that he left on the table. But he's rebounded, and I'll give him that. So tell us about how Tyler Bass has been able to, as a rookie, win the job from Hauschka, and then tell us about Corey Bojorquez and how he's been able to punt the football and give you guys good field position.
Yeah, I think that's the one area where Bills fans will say that they're very jealous of the Titans is the special teams area. Maybe not long snapper. I'm a big fan of our long snapper, Reed Ferguson, good guy. But yeah, it's been an adventure. I just think that Stephen Hauschka got an injury last year. Henry Anderson of the Jets, who is sort of well known as being a bit dirty, decided he was going to sort of blindside Hauschka after a play last year, and he was never really the same. And he was getting old, and they had asked Brandon Beane in the draft process, would you rather have a kicker who can't hit a long kick but is very accurate, let's say within 45 yards, or would you have a guy who might miss a few but who can hit the 60-yarder? Well, his response was, I'd rather take the guy who can hit the 60-yarder. So here we are. And Bass has been pretty good. He's missed a couple field goals and a couple extra points, but he's a rookie, and if my thought is if you're going to give Josh Allen 3 years or Tua 3 years or Trevor Lawrence, you got to give everybody 3, maybe not a kicker, but at least a year or two to really acclimate. There was not as many off-season activities, but I think he's done well overall. And some of it may be, Corey Bojorquez, the laces out, they weren't out last week and that he missed a kick. So the Bills seem comfortable with Corey Bojorquez, but I would tell you that almost every Bills fan except me wants them to replace him because he just cannot, there's no coffin corner punts with Corey Bojorquez or anything like that. But he had a 73-yarder last week that wasn't returned. So he's going to kick it high and long, but you're going to get a lot of touchbacks too, because he does not have the ability to put it there on the 5-yard line or the 10-yard line. So we're very jealous of you guys for that one.
Gotcha. Yeah. Brett Kern, he impresses me every week. And I said it.
Western New York native.
Yeah. Buffalo.
Brett Kern. He went to high school in the suburb that I live in.
Wow.
Sorry to interrupt. I'm just saying.
No,
yeah.
You're good.
Raider Brett Kern.
Yeah, he's a GOAT, man. I'm not gonna lie, man. Every week he surprises me. And we've had some pretty good punters come to Tennessee, Craig Hentrick. And I remember a guy, Mike Cyphers, if you remember him from San Diego / Los Angeles Chargers. But every week, I mean, he's a GOAT. He has the same birthday as Michael Jordan, so that makes sense.
Really? Oh, well, there you go.
There you go. I mean, it makes sense. So you guys, a punt returner, Andre Roberts. I've seen he's been on the injury report, so it's probably going to be Isaiah McKenzie, right?
Oh man, I hope not. I mean, Isaiah McKenzie has had an adventurous time with ball security, so my guess is that it would be Micah Hyde, but who really knows for sure? I mean, I'm not really sure, to be honest with you. We'll see. But it's too bad because Andre Roberts, man, he's a stud. Bills fans wanted to cut him this offseason for some reason. I'm like, you're crazy. I mean, this guy he's one of the best 5 probably returners in the league, I would say. So he'll be a big loss.
For sure. He was on my free agent list a couple seasons ago too. That speed is just it's different. You know, you need that guy that can hit that hole and has that that second gear and can sustain it. He has long speed as well. So just to wrap up, we got three keys to the game. What do you think the Bills have to do to pull out a win? And then we'll move to what's your biggest inspirations, hits and misses and goals, and then we'll wrap it up. But three keys. What's your three keys to a Bills victory?
I would say that first and foremost, they have to stop the run, which has been a problem. Also, Bills Mafia will be mad at me, but it was kind of, I mean, 4 missed field goals last year. So, I mean, you'd rather be lucky than good sometimes, I guess, but I don't think we're going to count on 4 missed field goals again. Got to stop the run. And I would say it's going to be a weird game. What's going to happen to the Bills secondary? And I know Corey Davis might not play, but I mean, without Trey White and, that's tough, man. And the defense has struggled. So I'd like to see that matchup because I think for me and a lot of Bills fans, we have, when you mention Ryan Tannehill, we think of Miami Ryan Tannehill. And I'm like, who cares about that guy? And then I'm like, well, now that he's not with Adam Gase, he's actually good now. So I think I fall into that. And then I think the other one is going to be, and you mentioned it, missed tackles. Man, the Bills miss a ton of tackles. They just got to wrap up. And if they can't wrap up and they can't cover, I mean, that's a long day. A long day.
Oh yeah. It's interesting you talk about the ability to tackle again because we talk about a guy that Derrick Henry stiff arming people into oblivion. So yeah, that makes me feel a little bit better because I think the keys to victory for the Titans is shock the world, man. I mean, I think you have to play disciplined football. You have to almost play like a clock control game to keep the ball away from Josh Allen. You know, who would have
Man,
thought?
it feels so good to hear you say that.
Right. Who would have thought? Who would have thought?
Yeah, man.
Wyoming Josh Allen. A couple years later, we'd be talking about keeping the ball away from him, which is going to be important. We have to establish the run, obviously, to control the clock. Defensively, we gotta bend but don't break. He's gonna make miraculous plays, but we gotta hold you guys to field goals, not touchdowns. These things are generic ways to win, but sometimes teams forget. We are at a disadvantage due to a certain situation that all the world is going through. We're going to be short of some key guys, so we really have to play to our strengths, and that's running the game, controlling the clock, and holding you guys to field goals. So I mean, I think that those are our keys. Do you have a prediction? I usually do another segment called "Be So Good" where I do my predictions and stuff like that. Use intel that I've gained, so I save mine for that. But if you got a prediction, score prediction, I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, I mean, this is just such a weird game, right? Weird day. Like both teams are missing guys, maybe for different reasons, but it looks like a lot of guys aren't going to play. I mean, I'm a Bills fan. I try to be objective, but I mean, I would say, something like, maybe 24-21 or 2017. I think it's going to be a close game. Like I said, the Bills barely escaped last year. And yeah, okay, they have Stephon Diggs and Josh Allen has gotten better, but the Titans went to the AFC Championship last year. That wasn't a fluke. Yeah, I mean, that's a tough game. So I think 2017 probably something like that.
Okay. Yes, that's generous. It's probably gonna be more generous than me, and I don't know. We'll see. We'll see about that one. Um, I do think that our time off and playing against a physical opponent and being a little bit shorthanded will have an effect on how things go, but we shall see. So inspirations. What are some of your biggest inspirations in what you do, why you do it, and I guess you can tie. I can tie two questions in one. So, what are your biggest inspirations, and where do you want to kind of take this? What is your goals? Where do you want? Where do you want the brand of Charlie Gross to be in a few years?
Yeah, and this might sound a little corny, whatever, but it's really Joe Marino. You know, when uh when the Bills were really bad, like 2011, 2012, I kind of stopped being emotionally invested. I would still watch the game, but I was kind of like, whatever. And I started really looking into the draft and getting more into the draft, and draft busts always fascinated me. And people started talking about, oh, well, how anyone can pick players. You can buy a Street and Smith and pick players. Like, why do you need GMs? Like, I was like, huh, that's interesting. And so then I said, okay, well, how can I do this? And then I sort of met Joe Marino from Locked On Bills, and I realized how he had come up, like, you know, with local podcast, writing for free, real big fan of the Draft Network. And I said, okay, how can I do this? And I said, how can I take how I feel about the draft? And I kind of stumbled onto it by accident. I just said, well, there's got to be a way for us to evaluate how good a GM is, or, you know, how good players are. Like, if two players get drafted in the third round, they might both hit, but they're going to give each team a different value. Just because they hit doesn't mean they gave you the same value. So I started playing around with that, and I decided to start podcasting just as a way to network in the Buffalo media community, just to get my name out there. I kind of tweeted at Joe, and he responded shockingly, because I thought it would take like a year for him, or he'd block me, you know, that kind of thing. And he was real supportive. He called me on the phone and said, hey, I think you got a good idea, but your scoring system is garbage. And I said, okay. So I went back and redid the scoring system. But getting somebody like that to tell you, hey, I think your idea has merit, was really important. And I'm currently a student at the Scouting Academy, because I do want to, you know, do mock drafts and write scouting reports. And I presented the idea actually to Dan Hatman, and he said, hey, I was going to do that when I was in the league, but I never had enough time. So I was like, oh, okay. And then, of course, I think the Bills, like every other fan base, is at war with Pro Football Focus. And so I started thinking, hey, in the future, maybe I'll get into some of that. You know, we'll probably eventually have a completion percentage metric, because I know the world needs another one. But we'll have our own. And so I guess the goal is, I mean, I'd love to get paid to do this at some point. You know, I'd love to, I don't know, you know, like how Aaron Schatz has the deal with ESPN. And I mean, I'll do it no matter what. But if I could get paid to do this, that'd be great. So that was, yeah, that's kind of, you know, my inspiration, I guess, is just that whole scenario.
That's awesome. That's actually awesome because for those that follow me, and it's funny you mentioned the whole emotionally, you know, you kind of same thing with me with the Titans, you know, being a fan since inception, being a kid watching them during kind of, you know, the early 2000s were their glory years, and they went through a lull, the Vince Young years, and they had a good 2008, and then it, you know, just fell off from there. And then along the way, I used to be one of the biggest fans. I could be like a fanatic with 20,000 followers. I promise I could. I would be the biggest fanatic if I had kept that mentality. But then I was like, I played around with draft, like, okay, I got sick and tired. I was like, okay, I can do this. Let me, with Chris Johnson one time, we lost 17-6 versus the Chargers in San Diego, 2007 playoffs. And I knew how to put the puzzle pieces together. I said we lost because we didn't have speed. Just a couple months prior, I saw a running back from East Carolina versus Boise State. And I was like, it's number 5 on East Carolina is pretty fast. He'd be an awesome Titan. At that time, that was Chris Johnson. Nobody knew about him. It was pre 4-2-4. I was like, we should draft him. I don't care what round, preferably first, because the speed is just a different speed. You've seen Chris Johnson. And then, you know, obviously during the process, I think at the time he was maybe a 5th or 6th round projection because, you know, they thought he sucked. And then, you know, 4-2-4 happens. He's a first round pick 24. I'm at a barbecue. I see it on my screen. I'm like, I might be good at this. And then over time, I start playing with it. Had a first round grade on Russell Wilson. I was like, how don't people see that this guy is great? And then, you know, he falls to the 3rd round and the rest is history. So I have kind of like the story of, as far as player evaluation, it's been based off of fandom, but then it became like, okay, I'm decent at that. I can put puzzles together. So your talent can either tell me that I'm really good or I really suck because I keep up with everything. I document everything. I put it versus every Titans GM ever since 2012. And I really have some more in 2010. But every draft since 2010, I've kind of kept up with my guys. Like this year, for example, instead of Darrington Evans, I would have drafted Antonio Gibson. So, who's better there right now? We know Gibson is a RB1. So instead of, you know, Cole McDonald, I would have drafted Steven Montez. I don't know how you felt about Montez, and obviously we haven't seen that on the field yet. But that can happen all day and night. Like Kevin Dodd, I would have drafted Miles Jack. All of these different types of scenarios. So I'm gonna send some stuff to you after this to see.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's the one thing that I really started to notice when I was doing the draft value score and all this stuff is, and it's something that they tell you at the Scouting Academy is, the Scouting Academy, you're training people to work in the league. And, most people don't, because, a lot of guys go into media and there's only a couple positions every year that even need to be filled, but they teach you how the league does it. And it's interesting to me because I feel like scouting itself is kind of so pure. You're basically gathering information. The head coach is going to tell the GM, hey, this is what I need. The GM tells you, the scout, and you just go collect information on players. And then it becomes this weird thing when it gets to the general manager or the owner, even, where the value comes in, right? Like Al Davis, he values speed. He doesn't care if they can catch. He just wants guys who runs fast. Like Kyle Shanahan with Ayuk. He was the number one receiver because he likes yak guys. So that was a value, So it's interesting to see how, like you mentioned the Steelers. They want these big defensive backs. Like even if it's not as talented as the smaller guy, they're not going to draft that smaller guy. So it's interesting to see how teams miss because they're so stuck with a type, or they have these physical parameters like Jalen Johnson. Jalen Johnson's an outside corner. He's 5'9", but he's still an outside corner. But some teams are like, oh, he's got to play in the slot because he's 5'9". And that's how you get draft busts, and coaching comes in. And, obviously look at Sam Darnold. Where you go matters. But these draft busts happen some of the time because teams are so set in a way and how they value guys that they just almost like they force themselves to miss on players.
Absolutely. And they get so stuck in their ways. I don't find myself ever. I have my preferences, but I don't find myself ever being that rigid because there's more than one way to skin a cat. There's more than one way. And then a lot of teams, they get caught up on personality traits too. They want these choir boys, and sometimes the edgy guy is better than the choir boy. And yeah, he might mess up a little bit, but he's better. Period.
Yeah, and that's what we thought about McDermott. He came in and we were like, man, this guy just wants these choir boys. Like he wants them to trust the process. Like he's got a catchphrase every year, trust the process. Like that's what he wanted. And we're just like, man, like he's never going to want a guy like Tyreek Hill or Kareem Hunt. And not that personally I would, because I don't agree with what they did off the field, but the point is like, and then you get a guy like, Diggs or even Jordan Phillips, who had a bit of a edge and kind of a loose cannon. And what we found out is the culture that McDermott promotes is, hey, come to Buffalo and we're going to let you be yourself. You can be the best version of yourself, and we're going to love you as a human being, and we're going to be here to support you. And so similar, like how the Patriots can absorb these guys that other teams can't. If you let people be themselves while still saying, hey, like we expect certain things from you, then you don't necessarily need choir boys. And Brandon Beane says, hey, look, I just want good football players. We'll figure out the rest,
All right. Well, that to close I want for you to share with us your biggest hit and miss. You can start with miss because I want to end it on a positive, and you can say your biggest hit in the draft if you kept up with it. Your biggest miss and your biggest hit, and then we'll close. Give your information out again, and we'll close.
All right. Well, I would say that my biggest miss, and I'm here with everybody else. I don't need to fill out the Josh Allen apology letter because I am a part of Bills Mafia. Maybe I should, but I wasn't into the draft like scouting wise then, but I was into the draft and I missed on Josh Allen. That's for sure. You know, there's no doubt about that. And I would say, oh man, my biggest hit, you know, it might be Gabe Davis, and not necessarily in a, hey, I thought he was a first round wide receiver, but my wife and I did a podcast right after he was drafted, and we got all this information about Gabe and what kind of a person he was and how his mom raised him and all these kinds of things. And we came away so impressed with just what kind of a person he was that we couldn't believe. And then I started watching more of his film. And I'm like, how's this guy go in the fourth or fifth round? Like, I understand Henry Ruggs and whatever, but come on. And as soon as we drafted him, I said, I know this guy is going to, you know, I don't think he's going to supplant John Brown right away, but I knew that he was going to make an impact for the Bills, you know, this year. You know, so I guess that's the best answer I can give you.
Gotcha. Yeah, yeah. I liked him. I liked him as well. He was a consistent guy, and that's what you look for on tape as well. Just a guy, whatever you are, be that, and that's what he was. He was consistently what he was. You don't want a guy that had like a 100-yard game, and then it took him 4 more games to get to that peak. Get to that number again. Gabe Davis was just consistent, and obviously a good guy off the field too. Because I watched the same documentaries and stuff like that about his life too. So we'll share the miss on this one with Josh Allen, even though he was like my number 3 or number 4 quarterback. But we'll share that miss. But I would say my biggest hit, just because of team's sake, I would say Stephon Diggs, one of my biggest hits. What was he drafted in the 5th round, right?
Yeah, I think so. Another, like, how does these guys
Yeah,
fall?
It's crazy because I had like a 2nd round, a 3rd round grade on him. And you'll see me, I'm a big receipt guy, quote unquote, like a retweeter of my passes. Really just me having fun. It's not like me, haha, I'm not doing that. It's just me having fun with it. But yeah, I had a 2nd and 3rd round grade on him. And, another guy that maybe it might have been a Titan if I was GM. This guy route running was sick at Maryland. It was putrid. It was crazy. So Stephon Diggs is one of my biggest hits. And hopefully he doesn't do us too bad come Tuesday. Hey Charlie, it's been a great time. You've given us a lot of insight. We got to have you on at another time, maybe talking draft, maybe talking some of your analytics. I'm very interested in knowing more about that. But give the people your socials again, and then we'll sign out.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, thanks for having me. I'd love to, come on again, talk some draft or analytics, whatever you want. Yeah, so you can find, I am the host of Downtown Bills, part of the Downtown Sports Network. I encourage you guys to check that out. There's all kinds of stuff there. They got wrestling, tennis, rugby, MMA, there's football, basketball, soccer, hockey, all that kind of stuff. The account for the podcast is at Downtown Bills. My Twitter account is at Charlie_Gross_. And eventually, by the middle of February, the Trust the Process Analytics website will be up. There's a Twitter account for that. That's TTP Analytics. So yeah, I appreciate you having me on. If anybody, I just put out a mock draft on the Downtown Sports Network, and you guys can all yell at me about that because I don't have Trevor Lawrence going number 1. So thanks for having me again, man.
No problem, man. I'll make sure I retweet that too on my account, that mock draft. And yeah, man, thanks so much for getting on. And we'll see who wins Tuesday. All right.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
All right. Talk to you later.
All right, thanks.